Hey there, Transmath 2 class. We're going to start some notes here for, this would be section 3.2. So this is the second lesson in chapter 3. All right, so we did this, I think, in the first lesson. They're saying write the whole numbers as fractions. So any whole number, you can write it as a fraction by putting a 1 in the denominator. So each of these, pretty easy. 5 over 1, 17 over 1, 100 over 1, 50 over 1, and 27 over 1. So just put a 1 in the denominator. And then another review of, we did a little bit of work with some geometry terms in the first lesson. And so let's just quickly go through that again. Remember, if you have a line that has just an arrow on the one side, that was called a ray. And the way that we would write the name of it, we just write A, B, and then we put a line with an arrow on one side, just the way it looks from the picture. Okay. 2 arrows, that's called a line, and so that would be D, E, and then we would put arrows on both ends like that. Since this one, number 3, has dots on each endpoint, that's going to be a line segment. Okay, so that's X, Y, and then we just put a bar with no arrows on it. Number 4, that's just a point. And so all we have to do is just put a capital letter for that one. And number 5 is kind of the same as number 1. That's a ray, and it's CD. Okay, some geometry terms there. Okay, what we're going to work on here is we're going to multiply a fraction by a fraction. They're going to have us take a look at it visually, but I'm going to show you just more the arithmetic way of doing it as well. And then trying to put it in simplest, lowest terms or simplest form as well. Okay, so first thing, we've done, I think we did these in the first lesson where we're taking a whole number times a fraction. So if we have 4 times 2/3, so for example, if this were the whole and we broke it into thirds, and then we were taking 2 of those thirds, 2 of them right there, and we did that 4 times, right? So that's what they're showing here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of those 2/3, and we keep adding that up. 2, 4, 6, 8. It would be a total of 8/3. Now, probably what you're going to do, now we worked on putting whole numbers, we could say 1 on the bottom, right? So when I multiply, the thing that's nice about multiplying fractions is that you don't have to get a common denominator. All you do is you just multiply the numerators across and multiply the denominators. And so it's probably a little bit easier. 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 3 is 3. So 8/3 is your answer. They kind of give us a visual idea of how that works right here, but we would get 8/3 by multiplying. Okay. Now, the way that they're going to kind of give us a visual here is thinking of multiplying a fraction by another is the same idea as finding a fraction of the other fraction. So what they mean is, if I was taking 1/3 of 3/6, or times 3/6, but it's like saying of. So if this was the whole and we broke it into 6 equal parts, we have something like this. And so if we have 3/6 right there, so that's what we've got right here, 3/6. And we're going to do 1/3 of those 3/6. So there's a third of this would just be one of these 6, right? So each one of these is 1/6. Well, 1/3 of the 3/6 would be just the 1/6. The answer would be 1/6. Now, for efficiency and for realistically, the way you're going to probably do, you're not going to draw these out, but this is just to kind of help you understand what they mean here and why it's like a smaller answer. When you multiply fractions, it's like you're taking a fraction of a fraction, so you actually get a smaller answer than either of the two things you're multiplying. But what we would do here is, we can multiply just like straight across, like what we did before. 1 times 3 is 3, and 3 times 6 is 18. Now that doesn't look exactly the same as what we had. It's technically an equivalent fraction. Now what we're going to work on is simplifying these. And so what we can do is say, well, is there a common factor? So if I would look, in my 3's row and in my 18's row, I would see that, they're both divisible by 3. So what I can do is I can divide, just like I can multiply the top and bottom of a fraction by something, I can also divide the top and bottom of a fraction by if there's a common factor. And so then 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. So 1/6 is the simplified answer. That's the same as what they're trying to show me right here. Okay, so I'm going to probably show you a little bit of both ways, but for the most part, you're probably just going to multiply across when you're doing these. Okay? Okay, so here, multiplying across, 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6. Now again, with a 2 and with a 6, a lot of times they're divisible by the top number. So if I divide each one by 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 6 divided by 2 is 3, I would get 1/3 for my answer. Okay, I think we're going to concentrate more on just doing the process and not drawing out the picture of it, because this gets to be a little bit longer, and I think students probably are going to have more success with doing it this way. Okay, so we're going to do 1 times 3, multiply across the top, which is 3, and 3 times 4, which is 12, and then we can divide by 3 and divide by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, 12 divided by 3 is 4, so my answer is 1/4. Okay, so once you've multiplied, many times, whatever the numerator is, a lot of times the denominator can be divided by that same factor. So like 2 is a factor of 6, so I can divide both top and bottom by 2 to put it in simplest form. Same thing here. 3, is a factor of 12, so I can divide by 3. Okay, number 3. So when we multiply across on this one, 1 times 6 is 6, 2 times 8 is 16, so I get 6/16. Now, as it turns out this time, I can't divide by 6 because 16 divided by 6 doesn't work, but I could divide them both by 2 because they're both even numbers. So I can divide by 2, and I would get 3/8 for my answer on that when I simplify it. Okay. I want to show you one other trick. Like on a lot of these problems, and we saw some before, if you have the same number on the bottom of one fraction and on the top of the other fraction, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but what you can do, it's kind of like you're dividing, it's like you're dividing this 4 by this 4. If you see that, you can cross those out and just make them 1s, okay? And I could have done that on some of the other ones, and if you do that, then you don't have to simplify. So then when I multiply here, it would just be 1 times 1, which is 1, and on the bottom, 1 times 8, which is 8, and now it's already simplified. Let me just go back and show you on the other problem how we could have done that. So like in this problem right here, we multiplied across and got 3 on top and 12 on the bottom, then we simplified it and got 1/4. But what we could have done was said, oh, there's a 3 here and 1 here, make those 1s, and now 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 4 is 4, and it would have got me right to the simplified answer. So if you recognize that, that's a faster way of getting to the simplified answer. Same with this one. We could have crossed those 2's out, made those 1s, and then 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 3 is 3, 1/3 my simplified answer. Okay. All right, next one. It looks like we can do this again. We've got 3's here, right? So let's cross out those 3's, make them 1s. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 9 is 9. There's my simplified answer. Okay. And that's pretty much it. This last part, involves some measuring. We're probably not gonna work on that one. Okay, so that's multiplying fractions and putting them in their simplest form. And don't forget this trick. If you have the same number top and bottom, you can cross those numbers out, make them 1s, and then just multiply straight across. Okay?